There comes a time when words are not necessary, not because you don't have something to say, but you realize that not everyone is willing, ready, or capable of hearing you. You could spend hours explaining your heart, your decisions, your boundaries, and still there will be people who will twist the meaning to fit their story that they've already decided to believe. That is why silence is not weakness. Silence is wisdom. We grow up thinking that if we explain ourselves clearly enough, people will understand. If we choose the right words, the right tone, the right timing, we can change the way they see us. But some ears are closed, some minds are made up before you even present your side, and in those moments, it's like pouring water into a sealed jar. It doesn't matter how pure or clean the water is, it will never get in. There's a quiet power in simply stepping back, choosing not to argue with someone who's determined to misunderstand you. It's choosing to take charge and remove yourself from the battle that cannot be won, because the battle itself is tilted not in your favor. You begin to understand that your peace is more important than their approval, and you realize that your life is not a courtroom and you are not obligated to be on trial for your choices. You do not have to convince anyone of your worthiness. It takes courage to walk away from the need to be understood. It takes maturity to stand in your truth without broadcasting it in all directions. This is not pride. This is protection. Every time you try and explain yourself to someone unwilling to hear you, you give them a weapon to turn against you. But when you stand silently, they have nothing to twist and they are left only with your absence. And that absence will speak volumes. There's a quiet kind of power that moves mountains, not by thunder, but by silence, not by noise, but by knowing. You've got to learn how to hold your peace and pour your energy back into yourself. There's silence that stings, and there's silence that sings. The world thinks they're the same, but for those that walk through storms, they don't shout. They understand that keeping their peace is born from wisdom. Silence can be unsettling to those who have grown used to your constant explanations. They may accuse you of being cold, detached, and unfeeling, but silence is not the absence of care. It is the presence of self-control. It says, I know what I believe. I know why I made my choice, and I will not spend my life begging for your permission to live it. In your silence, you create space, and in that space, truth often rises without your help. Time reveals what organized arguments cannot. We've been taught that those who speak least lack courage, but that's a misunderstanding. The kind of silence I speak about is the silence of knowing personal power. It's the quiet power of someone who does not need to please or to perform. It's the person who has learned how to protect their peace. It's not hard to raise your voice and throw energy into the air and demand that others recognize you, but power doesn't clamor, it doesn't scream. It simply is, and in that knowledge, there is strength. When you don't react, there's a dignity that many will not understand. When you are silent, you give yourself time to gather what matters, and while others chase chaos, you chase clarity. You find that you are free, you are focused, you are in control. Others will try and interpret it and call you cold and arrogant or distant, but what they don't know is that you have chosen silence, not because you're afraid, not because you're empty, but because you are fully aware of the kind of self-respect that you deserve and that some battles are not worth fighting. There will be times when your silence will be misunderstood, but you don't need to explain or defend it. If they call you weak, let them, because you know you are not. You are here to understand yourself, and understanding yourself is one of the greatest strategies. When the world gets loud, people try to distort your reflection, but when you're silent, you can hear your own voice clearly, and you can sort through the chaos and locate your truth. Your silence will teach you timing. It will teach you when to speak, how to speak, and more importantly, whether something deserves your response. Some battles don't need your sword. Some insults don't deserve your name, and you can't respond to everything. When you choose your moments, you become unforgettable, not because you always spoke, but because when you did, the earth paused to listen. There's no weakness in saving your energy. There's no shame in letting others fill the room with chatter while you sit still, steady, and grounded. That's not retreat, that is refinement. That's restoration. We live in a culture that glorifies the loud and the constant, but not everything must be answered in real time. Growth, healing, transformation usually takes place in the quiet. The moon does not scream to outshine the sun. It simply appears in its own time with its own rhythm, so the next time someone invites you into the storm that isn't yours, remember your silence is not surrender. It is selection. It is strategy. You're not ignoring them. You are honoring you. Silence, when chosen, is brilliant. It sharpens your mind, softens your heart, and guards your energy. It tells the world, I am not here for your noise. I am here for my peace and for a world that thrives on distraction. Nothing is more graceful than knowing when to speak, when to be silent, and when to rise. There will come a moment when you look around and realize giving your time, your energy, all your love to everyone else has left you empty. You were never meant to serve others from a cup that's running dry. You were meant to fill that cup with peace, with passion, with purpose. And if there's anything left, let it touch others. To focus on yourself is not being selfish. It is sacred. It honors the vessel that carries your dreams, and it says, I matter too. That's not arrogance. That's self-respect, and it's long overdue. Too often we are taught that to give love, we must sacrifice ourselves and hold everyone up even when you are sinking. But let me tell you, real love includes you and includes your boundaries, your growth, and remember, you do not owe your constant availability to a world that takes without asking. You don't need to explain why you're choosing to sit alone and read, or turn your phone off, or no longer answer calls that bring confusion or chaos. That's not rudeness, that's wisdom, that's alignment, that's self-respect wearing a cloak of silence. When you begin to focus on yourself, the world may protest. It may ask why you've changed. It may wonder where your attention went. It will miss the version of you that always said yes, who always showed up, who never asked for much. But you are not here to live as a memory in others' minds. You are here to live the truth of who you are becoming, and real truth requires space, time, and quiet care. When you focus on yourself, you realize not every hand deserves your touch. Not every voice deserves a response. Not every invitation is an opportunity. Some are merely detours from your peace. And when you respect yourself enough to say no, you start to see how peace returns. There is dignity in choosing yourself. There's healing in saying, I will no longer abandon myself to make others comfortable, because each time you betray your own needs, your own instincts, your own well-being, you teach yourself that you are secondary and you are not important. When you learn to trust silence, you also learn to trust yourself. You stop fearing that you will be erased if you do not defend your place. You start believing that your worth isn't tied to how others see you. Instead, you rest in the knowledge that you already know who you are, and that is enough. That is the gift of silence. Silence speaks directly to your soul, reminding you that your peace is your power and you don't have to spend it to prove a point. Let me tell you something I've learned. You are the beginning of every story you will ever write. You are the root of all your dreams, and if you do not water that root, it will dry up. People may compliment your petals, never knowing how weak your foundation is. So take time with yourself. Get quiet enough to hear your own voice beneath the noise of expectations. You do not need others to fix you. You do not need to apologize for slowing down, for sleeping in, for starting over. You are allowed to live your life at your own pace. Some will call you distant. Some will call you selfish. Some will say you've changed. Thank them. Growth is not always loud, but it is always intentional. And when you begin to grow, the world outside will begin to reflect that strength. Silence will teach you patience. It will teach you to trust. It will show you that not every story needs your commentary. Not every misunderstanding needs your correction, and not every opinion needs your response. When you learn to trust silence, you also learn to protect yourself, not fearing that you need to defend your peace. You're not defined by how others see you, but instead you rest in the knowledge that you know who you are, and that is enough. That is a gift of silence. It speaks directly to your soul, reminding you that your peace is your power and you don't have to spend it to prove a point. And just like the sun breaking through a cloudy sky, you realize you've just reclaimed a portion of yourself. Your silence has spoken louder than words. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to our channel and visit our website. The link is in the description.